this video we look at a 4-stroke petrol engine. So this is the structure of one cylinder. Let's look at the structure. So at the top of the structure we have the spark plug, and we have the inlet valve and the exhaust valve. We'll get through the functions in the later slides. Now this area here is known as the combustion chamber. This is the piston. This is a connecting rod. This is the crankshaft. This whole thing is known as the cylinder. Right? Now in a 4-stroke petrol engine, it's called 4-stroke because there are 4 different phases that we call strokes. So first we need to understand the piston and crankshaft motion. So what is actually happening here when we start off with the piston right on top. So the piston will move downwards and upwards. Piston moves down and up, but the crankshaft moves in a circular motion, goes round and round and round. Okay, so essentially this setup, the piston and the crankshaft, converts motion in a straight line to circular motion. Essentially that's what happens. Now let's look at it from the top. So as the piston moves down, so it's moving from the top to the bottom. Okay, as it is moving down, you notice the inlet valve is open and a mixture of fuels and air is entering the cylinder. So this whole thing is known as the induction stroke. After that, what happens is, as the piston moves up from the lowest position to the highest position, as it is going up, the inlet valve and the exhaust valve are both shut, and the air inside the mixture of petrol and air is being compressed. So this is called the compression stroke because it is being compressed. Next, what happens is the spark plug will ignite the fuel and there will be an explosion. Okay, so the explosion will force the piston to go from top to bottom, and this is known as the power stroke, where the explosion occurs. And last of all, the piston goes up again from down to up. Now this time the exhaust valve is open and exhaust gases can go out. So this is just the overview, generally what happens. Let's look into it in detail. So for the induction stroke, once again, the piston is moving downwards. So this is something to note in your exams. They will not draw the top position or the bottom position when they give you a diagram of the engine. They will give you the middle position like this. The piston is somewhere in the middle and they will show you the direction it's going down. I just want you to keep taking note of 2 things. Look at the valves, whether they are open or closed, and look at the direction of the piston. These 2 things you have to take note. So in the induction stroke, the inlet valve is open. Inlet valve, the blue color valve the inlet valve is open. So what is happening is, as the piston moves down, the combustion chamber has low pressure. Why do we want this low pressure? So that the mixture of petrol and air will enter the cylinder, the combustion chamber here. So as the piston is going down, we are taking in the fuel and air. So what happens is, when it reaches the bottom, the inlet valve will close. So induction stroke is the intake of the petrol and air, mixture of petrol and air. That's all. Okay, so again, notice the valves. The exhaust valve is closed. We don't want anything to escape. The inlet valve is open because we want the petrol and air to enter the chamber. Piston is moving down. Okay. Next, we have the compression stroke. So the function of the compression stroke is to compress the mixture of petrol and air. So now the piston goes from the bottom to the top. Once again, they will not draw for you fully from bottom to top. They will draw the piston in the middle. You have to take note of the direction of the arrow. So now the piston is moving upwards. Now again, please take note of the valves. The inlet valve is closed the exhaust valve is also closed. So both are closed. Now because the function of compression stroke is to compress the mixture of petrol and air. So the piston moves up and compresses the air and petrol. So this is what happens here. Now as the mixture of petrol and air is being compressed, the temperature rises. As the pressure goes up, the temperature will also increase. So by the end of the compression stroke, the vaporized petrol and air is compressed to 1/5 its original value. That means the volume has become 5 times smaller. So that is what compression is. Originally, from 100%, it became 20%. Okay, so by this time, the crankshaft has made the first revolution, one full revolution. We'll go through that in a bit. So when the piston reaches the highest point, here, when it reaches the highest point, the spark plug, this one, will produce a spark. Now, everything I've written in italic is the border in between two strokes. Okay, so this is the border in between two strokes. This signals the end of compression stroke. Now let's look at the two strokes first. So I want you to notice the position of the crankshaft. So at the beginning, the piston is up, so the crankshaft will be directly at the bottom. So as it moves, this is a quarter circle. Okay, it moves a quarter circle, then it's halfway down, and then it moves half, it's all the way down. So from bottom to top is half a circle, half a revolution. And then this is the induction stroke. For induction stroke, the crankshaft has already made half revolution. Then from the bottom all the way to the top is another half. So from top to bottom is half, bottom to top is another half revolution. So this is not the induction stroke, sorry, this is the compression stroke. So here is made one full revolution by the time we reach the compression stroke. Okay, now to the power stroke. So power stroke, remember just now after compression stroke the piston is up at the highest position. So now the power stroke, the piston starts to move downwards. Now how does it move downwards? The spark plug has already ignited the petrol and air. So this causes an explosion. This causes an explosion that forces the piston to go down. So again, the inlet valve and the exhaust valve are both closed. This is a closed, contained explosion which forces the piston down. So the spark plug ignites the mixture, explosion occurs, the hot air pushes the piston downwards, and this will cause the crankshaft to rotate. So this is the power stroke. Power stroke is where the explosion happens, okay, where the petrol is actually ignited. At the end of it, the exhaust valve is going to open when the piston is at the lowest position. So once it is ignited, all the petrol has already been combusted. Now we have exhaust gas inside the combustion chamber. Okay, it's already been combusted. Now we have exhaust gas. That's where we go to exhaust stroke. Now in exhaust stroke, the piston is moving upwards. The function of the exhaust stroke is to get rid of all the exhaust gases in the engine. So the exhaust valve will be open to expel all the exhaust gases. The inlet valve remains closed. Okay, so by this time the crankshaft has made the second revolution already. So when the piston reaches the top, then the whole cycle begins again. We go back to induction stroke again. So this is the second half of the motion. From the top all the way to the bottom, the piston moves from the top to the bottom in the power stroke, and the crankshaft makes half revolution. And then in the exhaust stroke, from the bottom all the way to the top. This is known as the exhaust stroke. So all together, the crankshaft has made 2 revolutions.